So thank you everyone for participating in tonight's first ever virtual general body meeting. So we're making history. The last time we met was in March, when for various reasons I intentionally made forth a short meeting. And so tonight won't have to be as short. Hopefully we're not as stressed as we were in March. But nonetheless, I want to thank everyone for participating in tonight's meeting. And so sticking with our agenda, I'm waiting for, I'll entertain an approval of tonight's agenda. So
moved. Bill Flanoy.
I see Bill. I see, so motion has been by Mr. Flanoy, second by Mr. Washington. Hopefully there's no discussion on the motion. All in favor? So make life easier, right? Unless I need to actually take a voting measure, I'm going to do this by negative consent, right? So is anyone opposed to approval of tonight's agenda? Hearing none, it's unanimous. Thank you. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from March 11th? Are there any noted corrections? All right, so again, history is being made. It's the first time we have minutes approved and no one had any corrections. So this is fantastic. We'll keep moving along. So as part of my report tonight, I really don't have a lot to say, but I do want to take this time to commend the office. So under the leadership of Rob Paris and Carol Ann, Taeka, and Gustavo, our office has done what I just think personally I feel is a phenomenal job in keeping business moving along. As you can tell, staff is in various backgrounds, they're all working in various places. Rob has been the only one that has consistently been in the office, but Taeka, Gustavo, and especially Carol Ann have done a fantastic job of moving the business of Community Board 2 along and responding to the information requests and any of the concerns that have been raised by our constituents. And for that, especially under difficult times, I wanted to take this moment as part of my report to say thank you and to commend them for the excellent work that they've done, because it's not easy. One of the benefits that we have is that we now have a full complement of staff, and the staff has been working and doing a lot of what I simply think is just good work for Community Board 2, but definitely getting the office in order. They've done a lot to bring forth some level of greater efficiency, some automation, and just frankly thinking outside of the box to make us a more efficient community board, so that whether we are in person or we're virtual, there's hopefully no degradation in service that any of the board members would have witnessed, or any of the community and the constituents that we serve within Community Board 2. So with that, I just want to take the time to say thank you to each of them for the fantastic job they've been doing to manage the office under these circumstances. Another part of the report that I want to use is the office has been doing a lot with trying to address some of our communication platforms and the ways that we utilize our website. And so with that, I want to take a portion of my report and ask Taeka if she's ready to present the presentation I'd like for everyone to take a look at, and just give you a little insight of what's been taking place while we've been in this pandemic. So Taeka, I'm going to turn it over to you, let you share your screen and present some of the work that we've been doing in the office.
Thank you, Mr. Singletary. I didn't realize I was going to be part of your time. I am honored. Hi, everyone. Could someone just let me know when a visual is available?
I can see it.
It's on.
It's up? Awesome.
Yes.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to ask, actually, I just need to, Webex, our best friend Webex. Just going to move this over here. I'm going to ask everyone to just find their mute button and go ahead and put themselves on mute, because if not, your face is going to show up on my screen in front of the visuals and I won't know what I'm talking about. My name is Taya Miller. I'm the most recent addition to the CB2 team. Thank you, Mr. Singletary, for giving me time during this section. So we're going to talk about digital strategy. Okay. So I think it's a toss-up between unprecedented and you're muted for being the word or the phrase of the year. Basically, the office has gone through a pretty drastic shift in our operations, and Gustavo and I were lucky to join right at the beginning. So very quickly, I want to share where we've been and where we're going in our digital transformation. And I'm going to start by setting some context. So what are we looking at when we look out at our district in 2020? Okay, here's a fact. The majority population of our district is actually 25 to 39 years old. I was surprised to learn that we actually have the largest population of that age group in Brooklyn. Anyone in that age group is a digital native. So that means that their work life and all of their collaboration habits have been 100% shaped by digital tools. That's the sphere that they work in. And no, our board majority doesn't reflect that demographic reality in our district. That's not a point of shame because our board obviously meets definitions of diversity in many other lanes, but this specific demographic point is pretty critical because, as you all know, in just 6 years, all of the NYC community boards are going to have to start filling a lot of board shoes a lot more regularly than we've been used to. So the question raised by this context for us is the district operationally prepared to serve digital natives? Because not only do we need to serve that rising constituent majority, but we're also going to be able to, we need to be able to recruit them to fill leadership positions. So our thinking is, wouldn't it be so much better to start on that transition work now so that the current board can help shape the future direction of the office? So we do have a plan for that. This is the sketch of the unified digital strategy. And I'm happy to share that most of this work has already been done, which is what I'm going to describe. So on the left, you see the internal transformations that we've already implemented over the last 6 months. And on the right side are the external strategies that we hope to launch in the next 6 months. So before we get into the details about each bucket of work, I just want to ground us here. In a nutshell, just because we can doesn't mean we should. Our digital strategy has to be specific, it has to be measurable, it has to be realistic for a team of 3.5 people operating on a very reduced city budget. It has to remain mission driven, and it needs an expiration date. So any of our initiatives, if it works, we'll accelerate it. If it doesn't serve us, we pivot. Okay, details. So like most of you, in March, we basically had a lot of overnight purchasing and process decisions to make. The first thing we did was lay out what digital transformations were even possible within the architecture of the city bureaucracy. That is how we selected which tools that we were going to acquire. By May, we had basically completed the office operations transition, as well as our public-facing remote protocols. And then by June, after launching the remote committee meetings, we were able to come back to work on the new rhythms of our own internal culture, both as a team and as individual contributors. So in addition to accountability and transparency, we started operating by what is called, it's not our phrase, but it's called the hit by a bus rule. That means that we're documenting all of our processes. We are literally making how-to manuals. And that means that if any of us is incapacitated for any reason, each of us will still have the ability and the autonomy to get the work of the district done. So all of this new commitment to documentation has created some really healthy housekeeping. That's why some of you have been getting links to more digital archive assets recently. And now that we've done the internal work on the left, we're ready to focus outward. So Mr. Paris, all of you know him already. He's already done the heavy lifting well over a decade ago. We have a fully compliant city website. We have a whole email process. So luckily we don't need to mess with that very much, other than a round of lots of updates and some enhancements from our archives. We're also going to be adding links to a new public Google Drive, and we were able to follow the Department of Education's lead on security protocols and structure for that. So you can expect to see upgrades to the website by the end of next month. But the remaining purple sections in this plan are kind of the next components of our digital outreach strategy. So I'm a WNYC junkie, like a lot of you probably are. I heard Dan Rather being interviewed recently about the first remote national party conventions and the impact of social media on politics. And he was making this really great point that the rest of the world is already permanently digitally dependent. So we completely agree that digital outreach needs to be part of the future strategy of our municipal governance. Okay, I'm gonna move a little faster here. Our strategy is gonna be smart, it's gonna be cheap, it's gonna be relevant, and half of our tools are already deployed. We are going to stay the course of the official New York City editorial guide. I don't think anyone can argue with being respectful, helpful, and informative. If these visuals look familiar, it's because we're already following. I was very happy to find a pretty extensive NYC style guide down to the font size that we're supposed to use for different headings. And we're going to follow the lead of the district organizations that have already made the digital outreach leap. So on the left, you can see we've got Myrtle Avenue bid and the downtown Brooklyn bid. That's a really nice cross post that they each did on Instagram about a COVID relief partnership that was done with NYCHA and Lori Kumbo and 4 of the bids in our district. So our bids, we have 6 of them in the district, they've clearly already grasped that digital outreach is how to reach constituents where they already are. And on the right side, you can see that even an agency as maybe risk averse as the New York State Department of Labor has beat us to Twitter. These are some examples from Brooklyn Public Library and Long Island University. And I just hope that they give you a little bit of a sparkle of some inspiration. There are so many ways that we can collaborate in really small but very public ways with known institutions in the district. And it's our position that partnering with district entities is the gateway to doing public outreach and programming, right? Because we don't have the bandwidth or the budget to do programming on our own in a scalable or sustainable way. But luckily, we have a mandate and we can leverage that. So we are the bridge between the city agencies and between all of the district entities that fall under the umbrella of CB2 geography. So I think it's exciting if you think about, we can show local organizations that we can be a reliable partner and that we're able to reach constituents across the entire district. Okay, so obviously the strongest part of our strategy is having the right team in place. As Lenny already mentioned, this is a dreamy team. It is literally decades of institutional history. We've got deep municipal government experience. We are locals. We're all experts in local culture. We have very strong opinions about our local restaurants. And importantly, we're not going to waste time reinventing any wheels in the digital space. We're not here to invent. I'm actually a recent Silicon Valley dropout and maybe a reformed business consultant before that. So these logos are all organizations that have paid for outreach strategies that are very similar to what I'm describing here. And because I know that there's concern about staff bandwidth, I just want to emphasize that the digital outreach was never the full-time role. It was always done either part-time in consultation or as a small part of a larger org transformation initiative. So that experience is how we knew which tactics to choose for the remote work. We knew exactly which tools were going to be the best fit for our needs and our mission. That's also why we know exactly how little time this work will take after the initial setup. And I'm happy to share that the transition has been astonishingly cheap, in large part thanks to the Brooklyn Borough President's Office support. And the next phase is free because it's social media. So quickly, here's our proposed launch plan. Basically, with your feedback, we can have a full implementation plan ready in about a week. After that, we would produce an editorial calendar internally. And if you're ready, we are ready to launch social media assets as early as October. And we already have plans for reporting back to the board. So this is really dense, but it's basically just a really quick look at what some of our digital outreach metrics might look like. So on the left in the blue, You've got the community board mandates. Those are lifted verbatim from the NYC Charter. In the middle, in the green, are some really obvious ways that digital strategy can fulfill each of those objectives. And on the right, in purple, I've just started to draft some specific ways that we can measure if our outreach efforts are working. And basically, if you follow any single line from left to right, I hope it's pretty obvious how much more is possible for the district to be doing. So in closing, I would just invite you all to visit and bookmark this URL. If you're not familiar, tiny.cc is a really great free tool for shortening really long web addresses into something memorable. So in this case, tiny.cc/BKO2public is going to take you to a new secure public Google Drive. Like I said, we're structuring that very similarly to the DOE's. We have just recently started adding assets from this year, and over the coming months, it will eventually become a full repository of the district's archive. And that's it.
Thank you, Taya. Hopefully everyone has been impressed with the presentation. I know at different times there have been several members who have expressed the need for us to reconsider, evaluate, improve, enhance, pick an adjective about our digital and communication platforms. But I wanted to make sure we did it in a methodical way, and also wanted to make sure we did it in a way that it could be supported by the staff in the office, because what I didn't want is, when you, as we all know, once you launch a digital platform and you're providing information, the work is not in launching, the work is in maintaining. And so you have to maintain, you have to make sure that the information is accurate and is kept up to speed. And so that was the primary focus I had for the delay, because it was important for me, in consultation with the executive committee and with the district manager, that we made sure we did it right. And so hopefully we will make sure that we have this plan laid out. I wanted to take the time to make sure that we did it in a way that was thoughtful to all the demographics in the community, but more importantly, and I can't stress it enough, and at least in my mind it bears repeating, that we could maintain it. And so I feel comfortable that we're there. I feel comfortable that the office has a strategy that will allow for maintaining the site. And so what we'll do is, given the fact that this is the first time people have seen this, we'll take the time to condense the presentation if need be and send it out to everyone to get feedback. To be really transparent, everyone, the numbers that were quoted at the very end from budgetary constraint, we want to present and have it approved and reviewed by the Finance and Personnel Committee. Once that process has taken place, then we'll report back to the Executive Committee, which will continue to act on behalf of the full board while we're still in this pandemic restricted environment. And then we'll move forward and come back to the general body with the findings and the next steps. But I for one think it's a good start, and based on some of the comments that I've seen in the chat, I think others would tend to agree. So once again, hats off to the entire office. This is just a glimpse of some of the work that they've been doing, but once again, hopefully you'll see that the work has been time has been well spent. So keeping in line with the agenda, I did notice that we have some of our elected officials on the phone and in the chat. We always have representatives, but given that we have at least two that I've seen in person, the Honorable Joanne Simon and as well as Senator Kavanagh, I wanted to take a moment to afford some time for each of them to address the general body and those that are on today's chat, today's Webex. And so, Assemblywoman Simon, if you're prepared, I'm going to ask that you come off mute, and if you have any comments you want to share with Community Board 2. And if not, just a simple hello and to hear your voice is good enough.
Okay, so can you all hear me? I hate to sound like everybody else on every Zoom call I've been on. So thank you very much. First of all, I was incredibly impressed with that presentation. Thank you so much. It was really wonderful. And having been at CB2 meetings for decades, this is really just like entering a brave new world. So I'm really impressed, and I'm really looking forward to this all being implemented. I think it'll be just great. So thank you all for the work you've done. And Lenny, I know, you've had a tough time during the early days of the pandemic. And so I want to thank you for everything you went through and how helpful you were in helping everybody in Brooklyn weather the COVID crisis. So thank you. And just a couple of things I wanted to talk about. Number one, thank everybody for having this meeting in September and getting the ball rolling this year. I'm really happy to be here with you. And I'm not in Albany, so we're here, which is, as you can tell, in my messy office space here. I want to also just remind people of a couple of things that are coming up. One, census. If you have not completed the census, please do it. It matters to everything. As you know, on the community board, this is how we determine how many school seats we have, how many hospital beds we have, where our bus routes are. We need that data so much. And obviously it has political and funding ramifications, but it guides everything that happens in the United States to have that census data. So I can't stress that too much more. So just go to nyc.absentee.gov and tell everybody you know to do that, because we desperately need to have an accurate count. As you know, the Trump administration has been trying to pull back a bit. They shortened the time for the census, which would now end this month, around the 25th. A court has just said that they could not do that, but you never know that they will not appeal it. So we are encouraging everybody to get out and do the census sooner than later. Don't wait and hope that we have the extra month that we should have had. Let's do it sooner than later. Voting, you want to go to get your absentee ballot if you can, and early voting begins October 24th. And that's really important as well, to make sure everybody turns out and votes, and encourage everybody you know to vote, because voting is really your greatest voice in just in protecting our democracy. And then the other thing I wanted to mention, I know that Senator Kavanagh will be joining me on that, is that we are going to be doing like a town hall on the Rutgers Tunnel, which is the tunnel that carries the F train into Manhattan. And it is the final tunnel to be repaired after Hurricane Sandy. And that is going to mean that we will have some closures and some rerouting of the F train. And it's going to be really important for folks in CB2 and in fact in CB6 as well, to know more about the progress and the project that will be the repairs to the Rutgers Tunnel. And that will be tomorrow night at 6:30. And I know Senator Kavanagh sent around information. We've had it posted to Facebook and to Twitter as well. And I encourage everybody, if they can, to tune into that. We'll be taking questions from people. And Senator Kavanagh and Assemblymember Yulene New from Manhattan, who has the other side of the bridges, and I will be moderating that town hall. So that is all I wanted to mention this evening. I know you have a busy schedule, so thank you for the time and the opportunity to speak to you tonight.
As always, Assemblywoman Simon, it's always good to hear your voice. Thank you for the updates. And on a personal note, thank you for the support and the kind words. I really appreciate it. Senator Kavanagh, are you still with us?
I am.
Good to see your face. Thank you for joining tonight's meeting. The floor is yours.
Great. And can you hear my voice as well? I'm unmuted.
Yes, we can.
Terrific, great. Thank you. I was there for the digital presentation, and very impressive. And I do think that it's really important and a great service for you to provide this forum and sort of transform the way you're doing business so people can engage in the ways we all need to engage with each other at this time. And obviously that'll really serve well in the long run, especially for people whose primary means of communicating is digital. So that, thank you all for your work on that as well. I just wanted to mention, first of all, Joanne, Simon talked about that forum. We think it is very important. We do have the MTA coming personally to answer lots of questions, to present what they're doing, answer lots of questions, and it is going to be somewhat disruptive. So we do hope as many people will be able to attend, and we will have a reminder going out tomorrow. There's a flyer, so we would appreciate if the board could circulate that to folks as well. few updates. We've been working on, one of the really huge impacts of COVID has been on small businesses trying to recover, pay the rent while they have some have no ability to do business at all. The restaurants without indoor dining, although there's, the governor made an announcement today that we are moving toward 25% indoor dining. But in the meantime, a lot of businesses are suffering. So I've been working on something called the COVID-19 Small Business Recovery Lease Act. This is a bill where the state would authorize the city to link restructuring of commercial leases and long-term affordability of leases with property tax break. It would be voluntary, but this city would offer a property tax break, and businesses and their property owners would enter into these agreements. The city does not have the power to do that on their own. So I've been working with Yulene New, the assembly member from Lower Manhattan, and also Brad Lander and Keith Powers, who's a council member from Manhattan, to get that going. We've got a bill and we're pushing hard for it. We'll be having a further press announcement next week about some progress on that. We also did pass a bunch of bills to facilitate voting. It is a challenge, but some of the issues that we had with the primary should be smoothed out by some of the bills we passed. I would urge, one of the things we did is make sure that people can request absentee ballots right away. Usually there's only a short period before the election when you can do that, and that contributed to the crunch that people had during the primary. I would urge everybody to if you're going to vote by absentee, make your request early and send it in early. There was some reason to be concerned about the U.S. postal system kind of dragging their feet in certain ways, and there's a big national debate about that. But the simple fact is there's going to be enormous volume of people wanting to vote. So if you're going to vote that way, do so. Remember also we have early voting, which might be an opportunity to go at a time when it's not crowded and cast your ballot. But obviously we want to see everybody participate. I'm also still pushing a bill that would extend the voter registration deadline. One of the big reforms we did last year was to change the Constitution such that we can have registration right up to Election Day. But the way our Constitution works, you have to do it 2 consecutive legislative sessions before, and then send it to the voters, and then the Constitution gets amended. In the meantime, we have a statute that says you can't register once you're within 25 days of the general election. That's a very long period. So I've got a bill that has passed the Senate, and we're trying to get through the Assembly now, that would push that date to 10 days before the election so that people could register late. They could actually register after early voting has started and cast their ballot right on the spot. So we're still working on that. I chair the Housing Committee, another huge kind of the many crises that we're dealing with that rising out of COVID. We've had a housing affordability and homeless crisis for a long time, but it really is exacerbated by COVID. We have pushed very hard to maintain an eviction moratorium in New York State. The courts announced that there is a moratorium through September 30th. So no New Yorker can be evicted at all until September 30th. Unfortunately, of course, that's fast approaching. It's 3 weeks from today. The president and the CDC announced a kind of modified moratorium. It's more limited. It will be helpful, especially it'll be helpful in places like outside New York where they don't have a moratorium at all. But it will be somewhat helpful to New Yorkers after September 30th if we were to permit that to expire. But we really should not permit it to expire. So I've been continuing to push the governor, who has some executive authority to extend that, and the courts, and my legislative colleagues to do it legislatively if necessary. And I have a bill S8788 that would extend that moratorium until January 20th, with the idea that, we can revisit in January to figure out if we need further extension, or, we'll know better what the public health situation is at that point. We also have been working on trying to pay the rent in the meantime for people who lost their income and can't afford it. Since your last meeting, I think, the Emergency Rent Relief Act application period, this was our first bill. It puts $100 million out there to fund the rent of people who were low income before COVID and are still obviously low income. They've lost income during the period. And HCR has received more than 90,000 applications for that program. They are processing them. We are hoping that the checks will flow soon. We're trying to get more information about exactly when that's going to be implemented. But that pays the first 4 months of rent. We will be looking for a much broader program. I have something called the COVID Emergency Rent Assistance Program, which is intended to be funded with federal money. We are also pushing for the federal government, which is having these extended negotiations for the next round of relief. We're hoping that's going to include a large amount of money to cover rents because it's really critical. Another thing on the housing front, we have been looking a lot at our fair housing laws. Last fall, Newsday did this extraordinary investigation where they demonstrated routine steering of people based on their race and ethnicity to different neighborhoods, and other practices that are squarely illegal and have been for a long time. So we did a hearing in December. We had scheduled another one for the first week of April. We postponed that because of the onset of COVID, but it is now rescheduled for September 17th. It is online, so it's somewhat focused on Long Island, but we do have a package of bills that would be statewide that are also the subject of that. And we have subpoenaed a lot of the people who were videotaped engaging in some very questionable behavior. So we're hoping to shed some light on it and also then pass a series of laws that we think will strengthen New York's commitment to fair housing. I think that's all. I'll stop there. I know you have a long meeting, and I guess that was a lot, but again, I appreciate the opportunity to address all of you, and I appreciate all of you being here and engaging with the community, and obviously I'm happy to take any questions if people have them.
Thank you, Senator Kavanagh. That was an extensive listing of updates, all useful and beneficial. Thank you both to you and Assemblywoman Simon for representing our district and the members, the people who make up your constituents in such an honorable way. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, great. So let's move on with the agenda. Just to conclude my chairperson's report, I do want to remind everyone that when we have these Webex meetings, that they are recorded. And so I wanted to remind everyone that the meetings are being recorded. Not that you should change any of your comments, but just wanted you to understand that the meetings are recorded and have it serve as a reminder. With that, I'll turn it over to our district manager for the district manager report.
Thank you, Mr. Singletary. You know, the staff worked with me very hard to try to have the report done for tonight. We will send a written report out to board members by the end of the week. And then I also want to share with everyone the discussions that you and I have had about format. Beginning in October, the district manager's report will be more of a district office report, a collaborative effort, and will be reformatted and provide less information in some cases, more information in others. And I look forward to getting what amounts to about a 6-month district manager's report out at the end of the week so that we can move on to the new format.
Just a little bit more about the format so that everyone is clear. What was clear to me is as I sat in on a few of the staff meetings that were taking place in the office, you know, given that we have a full complement, there are many items that each member of the office is working on. And sometimes in what has been traditionally presented through the district manager's report, you don't always, or at least I don't always get a clear picture of what everybody's working on. And so what I asked Rob to do was let's change the format a bit and be able to show the different tasks and the different items that the various members of the district office are working on so that you can get a clear picture of who's assigned to what, the progress that's been made. It doesn't preclude us from asking questions. It doesn't preclude for the same level of engagement that we've had with the district manager, but hopefully it gives a better insight for the collaborative effort and the collegial way in which the office is performing. So just to give a little more insight for that. So Rob, thank you for accepting the suggestion, and we look forward to not only the current report, but the new report. Okay, so now we're up to committees to report. Same things apply. Although we're virtual, I'm still me. So let's make the reports concise. Let's not make them long-winded. Let's continue to make sure that they're meaningful. And with that, I'm going to turn over to my main man, Bill Flournoy.
Thank you, Mr. Singletary. Over the summer, what we basically did was we had an informal meeting with a couple of my different committee members
to address the upcoming statement of district needs and also budget approval. Lindsay Einhorn, Catherine Gilman, and Kate Yearwood Young and myself got together and discussed this. Once we got together, we came across a couple ideas. We presented it to the full committee, our first committee beginning of this month. And based on that, we came up with 19 requests and explanations of why they're needed. We also came up with a overarching statement on what we feel is needed as far as the district is concerned. Right now, the district needs a couple things. One, we need support for the small businesses in the area because they are suffering. They are definitely suffering, and quite a few may not come back. Second, we need to talk about jobs. Okay, we feel that the district needs to talk about jobs because a lot of people have lost their jobs and are no longer working.
Bill?
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Could you speak up a little louder? It's a little difficult to hear some of the points that you're stressing because they seem important.
Not a problem. See if I can do that for you. Okay, can you hear me a little bit better?
That's perfect.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Okay, so we're talking about jobs. We're talking about helping small businesses. And finally, we're also talking about the fact that we're going to need affordable housing. Now, the problem is, if you don't have a job, it doesn't matter how affordable the housing is because you can't pay the rent. Okay, so we need to focus first on the small businesses to make sure they stay viable so that they can hire people so that they can actually pay their rent. Okay, we're also looking at that as far as the long term. As far as the 19 requests we have, okay, I'll be very brief. I'm not going to detail. We're requesting fund the, well, you know what? We have 19 commitments here. Fund and complete a neighborhood 360 commercial district needs assessment, okay, for our neighborhood. Okay, also provide neighborhood 360 grant program. We're also looking to expand the neighborhood 360 fellowship program. We're looking to expand the Love Your Neighborhood grant program. The idea basically is we're focusing on issues that would not require a lot of money to actually get them going. Okay, and we understand right now there may be a fiscal issue with that. We're also looking at the local small business repair and reopening grants and loan program. We're looking for the SBS Fund, a business incubator pilot program in downtown Brooklyn. We're also looking at essential product manufacturing transition grants. We're also looking for a small business incubator program for a sector for MWBEs. We feel also that we need to focus on those. We're also looking at specialized incubators to support different sectors as well as communities and business owners that support recovery and encourage new startups by creating space for shared resources and ideas. This is all geared toward the COVID-19 issue. A lot of people have been suffering. We've mentioned this already, and we had a focus meeting about that. And everything we're looking at right now is focused on that. We're looking for a small business digital expansion and marketing grants. We're looking at local small business recovery toolkit and virtual learning program. We're also looking for the city to fund the MWBE business ownership and training workshops. Okay. We're also looking to fund for employment programs aimed at reducing recidivism. We're looking to reopen the Franklin Avenue C train entrance on Clawson Avenue. Okay, I think that's something that's important also. Okay, we're looking to expand. Well, actually, some of our committee members felt that wasn't necessary. Other committee members did, so that was still up in the air. Okay, we're looking also to expand eligibility for payroll grants to cover companies with 5 or more employees. The idea basically is a lot of these small companies are suffering, and we want to help them out. So helping them out with grants would help them basically help them keep the 5 employees they have working. We're looking for a voucher program as a measure to help elevate housing and eviction crisis in the borough to both residential and commercial spaces, okay, which was already discussed earlier by our honorable. Anyway, we're also looking to fund Brooklyn Makers design competition aimed at putting local artists and makers to work in urban renewal, creative placemaking on our city streets. A lot of artists, okay, individuals are no longer able to work, and they need to be able to find a way to earn a living. Okay, and finally, we want to create and fund a Brooklyn Maker sustain street craft fairs for the fall and spring in one of the Brooklyn Pier public spaces for weekly warm weather market, or by renting vacant spaces from small landlords for eligible local makers to be able to showcase and sell their goods in a COVID-safe manner. So these are the things that we're looking at right now. I'll give you more details on why they're needed and how they will help. And I'll offer that to the executive committee when we actually sit down and actually discuss this as a group. And that's my report.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate that. Let me just say this at the outset. This is normally where, in a normal circumstance, we would allow, or I would allow, for questions of the chair for the respective committee. But given that, you know, we're in this virtual environment, and I've experienced where sometimes it can be difficult to facilitate a ton of questions that are coming, what I would ask for board members and community members alike, should you have any questions, please jot them down, and we can do one or two things. You can direct them to the board office and we can try to respond, or what I would prefer and what I strongly encourage is that you participate in the next Economic Development and Employment Committee meeting, and that way you can ask the question directly of the chair, the co-chair, and the members of that committee. And as always, we continue to send those schedules out because those committee meetings are happening, and they are happening with the regular scheduling. So again, I'm going to ask that you reserve the questions for the committee chairs tonight. This will be more informational, and then at the respective committee meetings, you can engage in greater dialogue. So thank you in advance for cooperating and appreciating and understanding the perspective that I'm taking tonight. With that, we'll turn it over to the Health, Environment, and Social Services Committee.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining the meeting, and it's a pleasure to be back speaking to you. It's been several months, probably about 6 months, since we've last met as a general board, and I've been able to give a report. We've actually had 4 committee meetings in that time, but I'm going to give a very abbreviated summary of all the interesting things that we're doing. I can't leave out the fact in March, right before the pandemic hit and we all went into lockdown, we had a really great health committee meeting with a representative of Woodall Hospital speaking about maternal mortality and the importance of midwifery in the process, and really the disproportionate impact on women of color at a rate of like 12 to 1 of the impact of maternal mortality, with contributing factors like high blood pressure. And it was a really, really dynamic discussion, and something that we're very interested in our committee in supporting. And after the break in June, we had a great presentation from Brooklyn Plaza Medical Center, where their executive director came and talked about how the pandemic hit them. It was tragic, terrible to hear about deaths impacting their staff. Probably most to hear about the fact that at the beginning of the pandemic, they felt that they didn't have the information, the training, the resources in order to really effectively treat and diagnose COVID-19 in folks. And so that was a very, very dynamic, interesting learning meeting that we had in June. In August, we heard from the director of the Fort Greene Senior Council, who talked about how resilient their seniors have been in the course of the pandemic, and how they've had a great outpouring of support from elected officials donating masks, and how the seniors have taken really incredibly well to the Zoom platform meetings and doing a number of activities in a virtual sense that they would have otherwise had gone to the center for. So we've really had some dynamic meetings over the course of this time. It's amazing we've been able to do this with the virtual settings that we've been in, but it's been a testament to the board office staff and their ability to support us with these meeting formats. And then last week, we just had a meeting where we formulated our district needs, and we on the health committee we have a unique ability to focus on a wide range of priorities, from environmental to sanitation to your basic health needs. And I think probably first and foremost, our committee is focused on health equity and the lack of resources that certain pockets of poverty within our community have to basic health care, whether it be health insurance or health services, mental health, substance abuse, but also treatment for very common disorders and diseases, heart disease, asthma, and high blood pressure, among a number of other items. So we've crafted some district needs, and some of the highlights include the idea of having mental health service vans to go out into the community and serve people who are underserved. The desire to have a survey of our NYCHA residents, and to really hyper focus the community district surveys. There was a health profile that's put out in 2018 that really focused on a community district 2 from a district level, but referred to the whole district as Brooklyn Heights and Fort Greene, as if we were doing much better than the rest of the city, when in fact, while many of us are doing better, there are pockets within our community that are not doing quite as well, and that's what we're looking to try to support. Then finally, because of the presentation we had gotten from the Brooklyn Plaza Medical Center, we had a district need focused on providing more, on really the city getting more preparedness and supplies and training for future pandemics, because that's a great concern that we have. And we also had several other items which you could find if we come to the health committee. We're the first Wednesday of every month. We love to discuss them with you. The resiliency, environmental concerns, pollution, the air quality with the BQE project is a concern. The solar panels and different alternative forms of energy. Lots of different things are our priorities. That's everything in a nutshell, but it's been a very eventful, ongoing summer, and it's been a good experience, which we're thankful to have had. And luckily, everyone has been in good health.
Thank you, Brenda, for that extensive update. I appreciate that. Covering as much as you could, all important and valuable information. So thank you again. Next up is the Land Use Committee.
Okay, everybody can hear me? Great. Hi.
Yes.
Hello, everybody. As usual, the Landmarks and Land Use Committee did several Landmark Preservation Commission applications, which we had approved. We also had an interesting discussion on basically the future, especially for land use future in our area. We know that there is the demand for higher end housing is one that's going to be questionable for the future. And we had a good discussion, I think, on that, because we're concerned that, how many people are going to still want to come into our area, knowing that a lot of people have been looking to leave the city, or, much less our area, to go someplace else because they feel a little uncomfortable because of the pandemic. So we had a pretty good discussion on that, and we also did a discussion on, of course, still trying to push for affordable housing. That's going to be part of the district needs, district statement of needs, and we've definitely pushed that. And we, discussed, I think things that will hopefully we will try to address in the future as to how we can balance trying to get affordable housing and at the same time dealing with the high-end stuff that we know that the applicants are going to be coming to us for, and whether or not that high-end is going to really be needed in the future, given that there may be a number of vacancies in these in buildings that are being built or have been built, but still there's a demand to build this, to build more. So we discussed that, and it was of interest. Anybody?
Carlton, that's it?
Yeah, that's basically it.
Okay.
Nothing.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Welcome.
Next up is Parks and Recreation.
Thank you, Mr. Singletary. We last met on June 15th. At that time, we spent a good deal of time on our district statement of needs. We also had a presentation from the chief of staff of the Parks Department in Brooklyn. And as you might anticipate, at that time, we spent a lot of time talking about what parks were closed, how the parks were closed, the impact. The significant takeaway for today is that as a result of COVID, capital projects for the parks that were underway at the time have been delayed significantly, and projects that hadn't been started yet were going to be delayed. We're going to be delayed even more. So we're looking forward soon to have an update on that. But that's the very distressing news about the impact of COVID on the parks. We're meeting again on September 21st. We're going to be talking about a photo project that is starting about that time at the Anchorage Plaza, and we'll be having a presentation from what is in essence a friends group at Golconda Skateboard Park, and it's one of the few parks that is really used the year round, every day, the year round. It has a lot of devoted followers. This group actually had a voter registration drive the other day at the park, and it's a very interesting friends group with a lot of concerns about their park. So September 21st on Webex, we'd love to have everybody who's here tonight join us then, and hope to see you.
Thank you, Barbara. Barbara, could you repeat the date of the meeting one more time, please?
It's 2 weeks from tonight. I believe no, not tonight. It's on the 21st of September, Monday night, September 21st.
All right, great. Thank you. Appreciate it. Next up is Transportation and Public Safety.
Thank you, Chair Singletary, and good evening, everybody. We had 2 meetings, one in June and one in August. On the transportation and public space side, we heard presentations on bike lanes, expansion of bike lanes from DOT, namely at Smith and J Streets, 4th Avenue, Navy Street. And we also heard from a community member who was advocating for bike lanes in the Manhattan and Brooklyn bridges, which we support, and we actually added to our statement of district needs, protected bike lanes in the roadbed area of the Manhattan and the Brooklyn bridges. On the public space side, we heard a presentation from Downtown Brooklyn Partnership in support of a pedestrian streetscape improvement around the development at 11 Hoyt Street. That's between Fulton and Livingston Street. And they're going to do something unconventional, but in keeping with the plan that they presented to the full body, increasing green space, open space, and widening the sidewalk at that development. And we supported that as well. On the public safety side, we really took a deep look into our statement of district needs. We had a conversation that was facilitated by Brandon Holmes, who is a community social justice advocate and organizer, as well as criminal justice organizer, as well as our own Brandon Smith from the Health and Environmental Committee, who in his professional experience has worked in the community court system. So these guest speakers help to facilitate our and expand our knowledge of what alternative mechanisms there are in the criminal justice system. So some highlights of some additions we put into our statement of district needs are the establishment of a community court in serving Community District 2. Now this exists in Red Hook, and it provides an alternative restorative justice mechanism for people who go through the court system. Unlike traditional criminal courts, there are resources like social workers, social services, mental health counseling, drug abuse treatments that are alternatives to incarceration. And this program has actually proved to be successful in Red Hook. by reducing recidivism. And it also helps the people who go through this system free up their records so that after they complete the program, they no longer have the criminal record of these misdemeanor acts that brought them to the court system in the first place. So we think that there were only a couple of these in the whole city, but we think that this would be a really great alternative criminal justice mechanism to establish serving our district. In that same vein, we would support the establishment of a justice fund as well. There's $3.5 million currently funded for pre-arraignment diversion in Brooklyn. And we think that's very little. When you think about that, it takes over $300,000 to keep one person in jail on average. And given that the city and Mayor de Blasio is pushing to reduce the incarcerated population from 11,000 down to 4,000, there are funds that could be accessed to be reallocated towards these more restorative justice programs, which have the same sort of resources that the community courts have, where people go through treatment programs or social services instead of serving time in jails. We also support training for police officers and deal with persons who have mental health issues or drug abuse issues. Recently, there was a news article about a woman not in New York City who called the police for help with her autistic son, and the police shot him. I mean, there are some crazy things happening in our country, and I think that we would support training to make sure that our officers are able to deal with these issues that, and in a way, in a nonviolent way. We also support redirecting funding from the NYPD to support educational opportunities, job training, internships, social service initiatives, things that would address the root causes of why crime is happening. And so that is probably in line with multiple other committees on our community board, spanning from YECA to economic development to health and social services. Overall, we support increased accountability, rethinking criminal justice, and providing the support for people prior to them entering the criminal justice system. So those were a lot of the new additions that we came up with for the statement of district needs that hopefully you guys will see and support in when we review those as a whole body. Thank you.
Thank you, Juliet. Appreciate that update. Last but not least, youth education and cultural affairs. Betty, you're on mute.
Ms. Feibush, go ahead, you're unmuted.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so it's good to see everyone's faces and that everyone is well. In our last meeting, we heard from the District 15 PAR project, which is a participatory action research group that is looking at the potential rezoning of parts of District 15's elementary schools. There are 7 schools that are segregated by race and economic status. So they've been working, the PAR group has been working through the pandemic on building their own knowledge of the history and context of other, conducting community conversations and spending time in the community, various perspectives. And just to bring our memory back, we had actually voted a while ago to recommend that the process slow down for more community input. So we're pleased with that. The goal is that by October, this group will generate a list of recommendations for the Department of Education, and that those recommendations will inform the rezoning of the 7 schools in District 15. Obviously, the schools don't know yet about the registration and utilization of each school, in response to the pandemic and people moving or changing locations. So more on that later. We also heard from the New York City Civilian Complaint Review Board. They have a youth advisory committee. That's what we're particularly interested in. That has 19 members that are aged 10 to 24, and they're serving as ambassadors in their own communities for the CCRB. They've hosted a youth symposium, and they inform other students. They visit schools and youth groups, now virtually, to discuss policies, outreach strategies, operations, and so on. And finally, we had asked for a follow-up on the educational facility that was slated for 1 Clinton Street when they tore down the library building to build the residential housing, and there was going to be a STEM space for science, technology, education in District 13. So we asked for an update of Levin's office since he had brokered the deal. There's still a lot up in the air, so I don't have any specifics yet. And finally, we spent time going into our statement of district needs, and there's some additional research we need to do specifically about enrollment, because we've been asking for new elementary school buildings, but most likely there we have adequate number of seats. We also are we're recommending additional water jets for school cafeterias so that students can access water without paying for water in one-use disposable plastic bottles. And we all supported a higher prioritization for funding for Beacon, Cornerstone programs, and after-school programs. These have been cut, and the need for after-school programs is more than ever. So, thank you.
Thank you, Betty, for the update, and to all the committee chairs for their committee reports. Next, we're up to open session. And so what I'm going to do for open session, because I think there are representatives from different agencies and partners of Community Board 2, I'm going to ask our district manager, Rob Paris, if you would kind of go through the roll call and see who we have representing the different agencies and elected officials. Rob?
Mr. Singletary, as you know, you usually do this in a somewhat hierarchical way, but I will do this sort of in the order that they appear on our screen. I see Elizabeth Adams from Councilmember Levin's office. Elizabeth, is there anything you wish to announce?
Hi, everyone. Nice to see everyone this evening, and really great to hear about all the committee updates and what folks are working on. It was I think this meeting was the last in-person meeting before we shut down, so it's definitely has some feelings seeing everyone's faces. I think just the one thing I want to put on everyone's radar is census. We are focusing on the census all the time. We have the September 30th deadline, so really trying to make sure that everyone knows how to fill out the census, to share it with others on their block, in their community, and their networks. Brooklyn has the lowest census response rate right now still, so we are really trying to pick that up. And then also just to flag, our office is doing a school supply drive, and we are taking a whole list of folks, so not just backpacks, but range of school supplies, and expanding it this year with things like headphones and things that young people could use, particularly during remote learning time. So we're kind of thinking about how that comes into play. So we're taking school supplies at our office all week, 410 Atlantic Avenue. Feel free to send me an email have any questions, my email is eadams, EADAMS, @council.nyc.gov. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And John Watkins from the District Attorney's Office, District Attorney Eric Gonzalez. John, do you have anything you want to announce? And you need to unmute yourself to do it.
All right, can you hear me now? Oh, great.
Yeah.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Yes, just a few things. First of all, the DA sends his well wishes as usual. It's been a very, very busy summer for him, as well as for the entire office. As you all know, a lot of things have been going on related to COVID. The office, for the most part, has been working virtually, but still the business of the DA's office continues in earnest. The courts somewhat have been opened up now, and so our ADAs are back in court as much as possible, proceeding with the people's work. A couple of things. The DA throughout the summer and his team have been participating in PPE and food distribution drives. And so we've definitely wanted to remain in contact with the community throughout this very difficult time, knowing especially for our first responders, their needs for having PPEs as well as those in the community, and also for people in our neighborhoods who may be in food distressed areas. The DA and his teams have been out participating with some partners in various agencies to distribute food to needy persons. Back to school supplies have been collected in the DA's office and will be distributed. Our supply drive ended about 2 weeks ago on Friday, and that was very successful. We had a lot of virtual or online supplies that were donated. So actually, it surpassed those in the past. So online donations are really terrific, and that's something probably that will definitely enhance and continue in the future. This coming Saturday, the DA is having a gun buyback event that will be in East Brooklyn. And for those who are interested and want to get more information, if they haven't already, please go to our website, brooklynda.org, and you'll find more information there. But the DA, along with my team that I work with in our Office of Public Engagement, are out in the community spreading the word for this because it's been a horrific summer with all kinds of shootings going on throughout Brooklyn and the city. And if we're able to collect just a small number of those guns that are out there that are killing and harming people, that will be a terrific thing. So again, that's this Saturday, the 12th, for our gun buyback program. That's all I have for right now, and I look forward to seeing and working with you all in the coming months.
Thank you, John, and it's nice to see you around 350 J Street. We also have from the Mayor's Community Assistance Unit, Edward Cerna. Edward, do you have anything you want to announce?
Yeah, hello everyone. Happy to see faces. The last CB2 meeting was also the last meeting I had before the shutdown. And as I joined earlier, I heard at least one of your fellow colleagues stating that they had done some out-of-state travel. And so I just want to remind folks that there's currently 33 states and territories that are on a list that if you've traveled to, you have to quarantine for 14 days. It's the safe thing to do. It keeps your community and your family safe. So I'm just going to run through a couple of them. There's Alabama, Alaska, Kentucky, Louisiana, Minnesota, Mississippi, and some of the territories are like Puerto Rico and Virgin Islands. So again, if you've traveled out of state over the Labor Day weekend, please keep in mind that you should quarantine for 14 days. Not only that, if you've been in an area where a congregate setting and you feel that you've been exposed or you have symptoms of COVID-19, Test and Trace Corps has been doing an amazing job of providing testing for COVID testing and antibody testing for all New Yorkers. We currently have some of the shorter wait times and turnaround times for that. For folks in CB2, you can go to Gotham Health Cumberland, which is at 100 North Portland Avenue. There's testing there from Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. through 3:30 p.m. and Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Again, that's both antibody and COVID testing. I would also like to talk about the schools reopening, since there's been a lot of news that's come out of the mayor's office over the last couple of days. So firstly, Tuesday, September 8th, which was this week, teachers reported to duty. On September 16th, teachers will start instructing kids remotely. And then on Monday, September 21st is when the blended learning programs will begin. The mayor announced some more details on the Learning Bridges program, which will provide free childcare to high need families that require it, so that if a family needs to go to work or has some other priority and they need their kids to be supervised, they will have that. 3,000 seats will open up on September 21st, and then by the end of the month and largely by December, we'll have 100,000 seats. On that as well, the mayor today in his media availability announced some more details on the busing. On Monday, September 21st, 100 bus seats will be available for students that need to take the bus to school. 6,000 of those seats will be for special education routes, and then another 25 for general education routes. The city is working with 60 bus companies to make sure that that takes place on time. And we're providing them with PPE to make sure that the environment is safe, because again, health and is the priority. Health and safety is the priority here. So we've supplied them with 300,000 masks, 10,000 face shields, 3,000 bottles of hand sanitizer, and electric static sprayers for every bus garage, so that they can sanitize their buses and again ensure that this environment for these kids is safe. That supplies will be consistent moving forward. And I think I'll stop there. So yeah, happy to see everyone and wish everyone a good week.
Thank you, Edward. I see two people from Congressmember Hakeem Jeffries' office, and Maren, do you want to speak for the office? Should I defer to Lee?
Yeah, defer to Lee. He's your point of contact. I just wanted to hear, because I knew today's topic was district needs and wanted to make sure I captured everything. So, but I'll leave it to Lee.
And thank you for coming.
Of course. Thank you guys for hosting this. This is super informative. Lenny knows I take vigorous notes for the office to make sure that we capture everything and know what the community wants, needs, and how we can be most helpful.
Great. Thank you. Lee, are you on the call?
Yes, I am, Robert. Can you hear me?
I can.
All right. Good evening, everyone. It is definitely a pleasure to see everyone's face. John, I see that you waved to me and I'm waving back to you, sir. It's a pleasure to see you guys, all 63 members here in this meeting tonight, as we've returned from a very uncertain time that we were dealing with in our community. Just want to highlight some things that the member has done during this time. Some legislation act on behalf of the congressman. He supported the CARES Act, which was in March for about $2 trillion. The HEROES Act that is still sitting on the tables and trying to be passed on May 15th for $3 trillion. George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, HR 2382, which references and supports USPS with $25 billion in critical funding. Also, the congressman signed on to a letter to the FBI director with Ted Lieu requesting investigation of the Postmaster General, Mr. DeJoy. And as caucus chair, we had some roundtables with Task Force on Aging and Families, roundtable on Black and Brown maternal health and health disparities. As far as our community outreach during the summer and during this pandemic, which was very important. And the congressman took some very, very important focus on food and PPE distribution. We tagged that in with our annual Congress on Your Corners. And the most important component to that was making sure that community members throughout our district received food as well as extensive PPE. We worked with clergy in response to the uptick in gun violence throughout our community, which continues to increase, and our attention to it continues to get stronger. We had series of telephone town halls, which the congressman will continue to work on and continue to expand so that he can continue to inform those within the community. Some casework. We definitely worked with community members that were looking for their stimulus checks, stimulus check assistance, and emergency food services, immigration holdups, and so on and so forth. Those are just some of the things that the Congressman has vigorously been working on during the past few months, while during the entire time being overly concerned with the safety of his constituents throughout the community in which he represents. As you know, Robert, I don't like to take much time, so I will leave you with that. If there's any questions that you have for myself, I will leave you with my email, which is lee.church@mail.house.gov. I'll repeat that again. It's lee.church@mail.house.gov. And the office number, 718-237-2211. 718-237-2211. My cell phone number, 347-461-4059. 347-461-4059. And as I always tell you, if I do not answer, you leave me a message, I will return your call. Have a great evening, and I'm sorry if I was too lengthy.
No, that was fine, Lee. Thank you. And we've posted your email address and telephone number in the chat panel if anybody missed it while you were giving it. Representing Comptroller Scott Stringer is Taeka Haraguchi.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Great. Well, it's so great to be here with all of you virtually tonight. Thank you so much for such an informative community board meeting. I think I'm just going to give, a few short updates on some of the latest work that our office has been doing. So this might actually not be widely known, but the Comptroller's Bureau of Labor Law enforces prevailing wage and benefit rates for construction and building service workers employed by contractors on any city public work project. So essentially, when companies on these public contracts fail to pay the proper wages and benefits, the Comptroller enforces the law so that we're able to go recover the money owed to workers and ensure that they receive the money through our office's outreach. So in light of COVID, we decided to take extra measures to ensure that these wages are returned. So, we hosted phone banks, Know Your Rights workshops, and actually all of this resulted in our office being able to return over $2 million in unclaimed wages to more than 100 workers since this pandemic started. So we're still continuing with our outreach efforts. So if any of you can think of any groups, community organizations, even just groups of people that would like for us to give a presentation on prevailing wages and how our office can help return some of these lost wages, I'll drop my email into the chat, so you can always contact me, and we're more than happy to work with you to make sure that workers get the wages that are owed to them. And I think before I heard some discussion about the NYPD budget. So during this pandemic, our office actually identified areas in the budget where we can put resources from the NYPD back into the community. And just as sort of like this blueprint baseline, we are able to identify about $1 billion in cuts over the course of 4 years. So I will put that information in the chat as well. Oh, Robert, you beat me to it, it looks like.
Not me, that's Taya.
Oh, Taya. And then the next two things I'll mention very quickly is some of our work in regards to school reopenings. So we actually released a report called Strong Schools for All, a plan forward for New York City. And it offers a set of recommendations to safely reopen New York City schools for fall 2020 amid the COVID-19 pandemic. So just in an effort to accelerate the process, the Comptroller's office worked with experts in the field to develop this comprehensive set of proposals. The proposals essentially ensures the safety of students and educators based on the latest scientific guidance. It reopens schools with as much in-person instruction as possible, provides transparency about transmission status within school communities, and also improves the quality of any remote instruction that remains necessary. So, once again, I'll drop that report in the chat. And then the next school proposal that our office put out is that we propose the first of its kind bike to school plan for New York City high school students. So we call on the city and our philanthropic partners to provide free bikes and city bike memberships to low-income high school students, and to build 1.5 miles each of protected bike lanes around 50 different New York City high schools within the next year. 18% of high school students walked or biked to school in 2015, down from 23% in 2009. And 40% of high school students attend a school within their home district, and 83% within their home borough. So with cuts to the MTA transit service, school buses operating at a limited capacity, and the continued need for social distancing, we believe that this bike to school proposal offers a sustainable, safe, and just healthy way for our students to get to school. And then finally, due to sanitation cuts, you may have noticed we've seen an uptick of rat sightings, and this affects business corridors, this affects quality of life all over the city. We've seen a dramatic increase from less than 1,000 rat sightings in April to now more than 1,600 rat sightings in June. So the Comptroller worked with Congressman Espaillat, and we proposed a series of recommendations to remedy the pretty untenable piles of trash accumulating in our city streets, sidewalks, and public spaces. So that includes working with business improvement districts and business owners to provide flexibility to these businesses that want to add street bins at their own expense, and also broadening the city's Clean Curbs pilot program. So right now, mountains of garbage are driving away customers at a time when struggling small businesses are relying on foot traffic to generate this critical revenue. So all these recommendations, we hope are creative solutions for the city to keep our neighborhoods healthy, safe, and clean. Thank you.
Thank you, Taeka. Going to try that again. Okay. Representing or from the Brooklyn Public Library, in particular the Clinton Hill branch, Tracy Mantrone. Tracy, I can remember your name. I don't know where you work.
No, that's okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I am happy to say that the Clinton Hill staff is back at the Clinton Hill branch, and we are getting ready for lobby service. We don't know exactly when that's going to happen, but hopefully soon. We are having our meeting room renovated so that we'll have a nice meeting room and makerspace when we eventually move to letting patrons back into the building. And we've also created a teen space. Walt Whitman, if all goes well, should be opening for lobby service next week. So people will be able to return their items at Walt Whitman. While BPL has been closed, the age level for e-cards has been eliminated. Prior to COVID, you had to be 13 and up to get an e-card. We've removed that. So kids and teens and adults of all ages can get e-cards. That lets them take out ebooks and use our databases. We've got some really excellent databases right now. We have BrainFuse Help Now, which has live homework help from 2 to 11 for kids. And we also have BrainFuse Job Now, which has live resume assistance from 2 to 11 for adults. The Business Library has been doing a lot of programs, everything from how to write a cover letter, resume help, programs and one-on-ones. They've also been doing a lot of So that's at www.bklynlibrary/business. And there's a lot of other programs going on, everything from virtual story time to how to use a database to book discussions. So check out our website. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. And I want to share with everyone that the Brooklyn Public Library is going to make an extensive presentation at the October 28th Cultural Affairs Committee meeting, there'll be updates on several of the branch libraries, operational plans during the coronavirus, and some other updates that I don't want to be a spoiler for. So save the date for that, because I think that's going to be a really excellent meeting. The next person to speak is Nanearl Blackshear from Borough President Eric Adams' office.
Good evening, Community Board 2. Can you hear me? Okay,
We can.
thank you. That's good. Thank you. Just to give you a brief announcement, as you know, and I believe it was said earlier about how Brooklyn is low as far as the census count is concerned. As of 2010, we were considered one of the lowest counties. And in 2020, we are fighting to make sure that everyone is counted. Just to give you a heads up, as far as the 5 boroughs are concerned, Brooklyn is currently the last among them in self-response rates. So it is the reason why the borough president has agreed to do a census phone banking battle of the boroughs tomorrow. This will be taking place. I know that the Bronx is involved. I'm assuming the other boroughs will be involved too. But tomorrow in the evening, we will be engaged in phone banking to reach out to as many residents as possible to get them to fill out their census. So if you wish to know more, you can reach out to our office at 718-802-3700. I know that this offer was for our staff. I'm not too sure whether it's for the public, but if you have questions, you can call that number. Next week begins borough consultations, and our office is working with OMB in regards to that. Our policy department has historically worked with OMB in regards to the borough consultation, so I won't be surprised if I will see either Mr. Paris or some of the members of the staff of CB2 at those consultations. As you have known in the past, I have made an announcement about the Breaking Bread Building Bonds initiative that the borough president has initiated since the beginning of this year. First, we were doing face-to-face dinners of 10 people and slightly more at various locations around the borough and the city. As far as COVID-19, it hit. We suspended it, we reactivated it, it became virtual. And as a result, I want to thank the community board members who participated in the recent Breaking Bread dinner, Oscar Luckett, and I believe Mr. Cohen also participated in the dinners, and they are still ongoing. If anybody is interested, please go to our website, which is www.brooklyn-usa.org. Your borough president is very active in and around the borough on various issues, whether it be gun violence or COVID-19 response, or as simple as giving out backpack supplies, which we did in Brownsville. I think it was mid last week. So we are ever present. And if you have any questions, please feel free to give me a call on my cell at 917-743-5529. And I look forward to working with each and every one of you this day forward and from this day and going forward into the future. Thank you.
Mr. Singletary, I believe that is everyone that I recognized. If there's anyone who represents an elected official or a you got to love Webex. If there's anyone from an elected official's office or a major organization, please announce yourself to Mr. Singletary.
Sorry, I've just muted everyone.
Oh.
That will reset.
Richard, feel free to reach out to the board office. We'll try to make accommodations to hear you next time, but because of the connection, we can't hear you clearly. There's too much feedback, Richard, so we can't hear you. Yeah. So with that, we're going to move on with the next part of the agenda. We're into open session. So before I do that, I do want to take the moment to introduce some new board members to Community Board 2. And so we have 3 new members. We have Catherine Gilman, who I believe is on the phone. I see her smiling at the bottom of my screen. Welcome to CB2. Welcome. We have Oscar Luckett, who some of you may know, if you've seen him in the past, but Oscar is here again this evening. He's our youth member to the Community Board.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, Oscar. And then last but not least, we have Nicole McKnight, who's also new to the Community Board. I saw her photo earlier. I think she's still connected, but welcome, Nicole, as well. So welcome to our 3 members to Community Board 2. All right, great. So before I move on to other business, I do want to give a brief opportunity for Taya to give a chance to maybe give some feedback from what her experience has been like. You know, she's still new to the Community Board, hasn't really had a chance to get into the normal rigors of working in the office, but she's been a tremendous value thus far, she, Gustavo, and Carol Ann. And so given that I believe she's on, I'm not sure I saw Carol Ann or Gustavo, but if I'm correct, I'll just make an opportunity for Taya to give some comments and maybe, you know, give her opinion of what the office has been like thus far.
Hi, can you hear me?
Taya? Yeah, I can hear you now.
Hi, Mr. Singletary. Well, in brief, it has been a tremendously exciting time to join public service. We've been very busy. I want to thank Mr. Paris and Ms. Church, especially for being incredibly welcoming to Gustavo and myself and very generous of their time. They have, between the 2 of them, they have an awful lot of institutional history to share, which has been really helpful. I think we've been able to get up to speed pretty quickly, but I guess Mr. Paris could speak to that better than I can. I've actually been, I don't normally show my face, but I've been in the background of every single meeting that we've conducted online, and I'm just really impressed with how much dedication and commitment all of the chairs and all of the members have shown this summer. I didn't really have any prepared comments for this section, so I'm happy to answer questions if you have any.
Yeah, no, I wasn't expecting you to answer or to perform. This isn't Star Search, but you did a great job, and I wanted you to get the opportunity to present, but also wanted to, you know, hear your feedback as someone who's new, and wanted to continue, as I've always said, that, you know, doors of communication are open. Feel free to reach out to me, any of the executive committee, and clearly you've already established a rapport with Rob, so thank you, and I hope that continues to grow. So moving on to item number 7 on the agenda, is there any other business? Anything that we didn't cover tonight?
Chair.
Yes, Mr. Harrison.
I just want to announce that next week, Tuesday the 15th at 6 p.m., the 88th Precinct Council will be meeting in the schoolyard/park associated with the school next to the 88th Precinct at Classen and Lafayette. Sorry, DeKalb, Lafayette. And the following month, on the 3rd Tuesday, to continue in that vein of having a kind of a public meeting that is not virtual, by dint of the fact that many of the people who attend, Mr. Chair and my colleagues, are less tech savvy than myself. They tend to be up in years. The 88th Precinct Council will be meeting in the schoolyard associated with the school formerly connected to Queen of All Saints Church on Vanderbilt Avenue between Lafayette and DeKalb. That would be Tuesday, October 20th, again at 6 p.m. We're doing these outdoor things, and we think it's safer for the seniors who are the regular attendees to have an early start and an early dismissal. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Mr. Singletary, it's Lindsay Einhorn.
Hi, Lindsay.
Hi, I just wanted to mention that the borough and the city are still looking for poll workers. There's training through October 9th for anyone who would be a first-time poll worker. And if you take the training and work one election, you get $100. So I just thought that was worth mentioning.
Great, thank you. John Dew?
Yes, I just wanted to mention, because it has not yet made the news, although I'm sure it will. On Myrtle Avenue, we had 2 nights ago 3 glass storefronts, windows broken. 2 of the storefronts also sustained some internal damage and the like. So we're having a community meeting on Friday with the 88th Precinct, and to try and gather all of the camera footage that we had installed on the avenue many years ago to try and get a handle on that. But it is a very concerning issue. The other brief item I had, and Taya, I will be sending you some questions tomorrow about your report, which I have to say was absolutely impressive and a wonderful opportunity to grow our community. And my questions will be along the lines of how we're going to further communicate with the community. I don't miss a meeting without saying Black Lives Matter, and I'm saying it right now. And I just want to share with the community board that many of the streets in our district and throughout the borough and throughout the city are named after slave owners. Streets such as Skirmahorn and Livingston and Pierpont Street and the like. And it's a thought that's an opportunity for us, again, to reach into the community and give some of those folks who need to understand and embrace and accept and promote Black Lives Matter an opportunity to identify with that particular issue as one of very many that we are looking at in the community. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I'm looking at the chat, and I see that there is a request from a Sharon Pope Marshall to speak. Sharon, would you identify yourself? And the floor is yours. You have 2 minutes to speak.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Yeah, we can, yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson Singletary and District Manager Paris. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sharon Pope Marshall. I'm the Director of Outreach and Membership Program at Bike New York. Our beloved city continues to be terribly impacted by COVID-19. Bike New York has cycled the streets of the Big Apple since 1977. We know New York is tough. We know you're tough because we are New York tough, to paraphrase our governor. Cycling forward is what we do. So it is no small amount of pride that Bike New York is excited to announce our first virtual cycling event called Spoketober. As you might hear that it's happening in October, we're calling it Spoketober. And we're inviting everyone to ride every day in October in the name of wellness, camaraderie, and good old-fashioned fun. And by the way, it can be for a few blocks, down the street, to the supermarket, to our favorite bodega, because we want to keep our local businesses in business. However, here's my request of you. We need help in promoting our event and getting the information out to the community. Although I'm going to leave information about Spoketober in the chat, as well as my email address, I will send additional information to the office, and if this information can be forwarded out to the community, we really would appreciate it. And by the way, we have a recycle bicycle shop at 858 Fulton Street between Clinton and Vanderbilt. If anybody's looking for bikes, we've got recycled bikes. We can help you. As you all know, there's been a significant bike boom. I appreciate this opportunity to allow me to speak before the board. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And best of luck with your Spoke virtual meeting. So thank you for sharing that information. At this time, seeing no other requests for other business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Singletary,
Yep.
Enzo Renzi would like to speak.
Who?
Enzo Renzi. Enzo, are you still on the
George, you have
call?
2 minutes.
I am, thank you. Yes.
Yeah, he's still on the call.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, thank you. Good evening. My name is Enzo Renzi. I'm one of the members of the Board of Managers of the 110 Livingston Street condominium. And I'd like to raise a quality of life issue, if I may. This summer, the New York City Transit Authority installed new cooling towers on the top of its building at 130 Livingston Street. We've had the Department of Environmental Protection over, and they've measured the noise from these new cooling towers. They're clearly in violation of the city noise code at 55 decibels. The city noise code, as you're probably aware, limits air handling equipment to 42 decibels. Department of Environmental Protection says that they're not really able to enforce a violation against New York City Transit Authority. So I would be very glad if there's anyone on the community board or any of the representatives of elected officials on the call this evening who could have suggestions for us about how we could be effective in getting New York City Transit Authority to be neighborly here and to address this very clear noise violation, which affects a very large number of residents, not only in my building at 110 Livingston Street, but also at a number of other residential buildings here at the intersection of Livingston, Borough, and Schermerhorn.
Mr. Renzi, what I would suggest is that if you get a chance, if you would email or contact the board office, somewhere in this general chat, you'll see the board office information, or we'll put it back up again so you can capture it. And then you can work with the board office and they will help guide you on alternatives that you have. Once again, the board office email is bk02@cb.nyc.gov. And to that extent, we can be helpful in that process. Our district manager and our staff in the office will help get you some level of understanding, or at least something to help elevate your process.
That would be very much appreciated, because as you can imagine, because it is an intergovernmental problem, it's one which is not easy for us to find a way of addressing. Otherwise, if it were an individual or a business, we would go right through Department of Environmental Protection.
Also, Mr. Singletary, Hakeem Gross from the New York City 2030 district would like to speak, and I will add that I will be joining Hakeem on a webinar on Tuesday.
Good evening, Hiram.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Great. Very quickly, I'm working with a wonderful group of people on a campaign sponsored by Borough President Adams and Cerna and supported by Community Board 2. Heat Cool Smart Brooklyn is promoting and facilitating green retrofits in commercial, residential, and multifamily buildings. Visit our website, heybrooklyn.org. That's HEYbrooklyn.org. You can register for the webinar next Tuesday evening that Robert mentioned, and also sign up your building for a free energy audit and hopefully a retrofit that'll help you save energy and save the planet. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Rob, any other?
I believe we are now caught up, sir.
Okay, great. So listen, before I call for a motion to adjourn, because I see the smiling faces, I do want to thank everyone for dialing in this evening. I hope that you all continue to remain safe. Flu season is upon us very shortly. So now more than ever, it's imperative for us to be masked up, make sure that you follow good hygiene, be as diligent as you can about your health, and let's do what we can to go into this flu season better prepared than we were last flu season. And with that, everyone, please remain safe. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you, Mr. Jordan and Mr. Dew and everybody else, Mr. Harrison. All right, got it. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Take care.
Good night.
You too.
Good night.
Good night, everybody. Stay safe.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.